Hello, soy CEO Rodriguez, and continuing with this preparation class for the CISSP, Certified Information System Security Professional, still in Domain 1, Security and Risk Management. In this section, we will cover practice questions from 61 to 80. Question 61. Which preventative measure is a communication channel between the user or the program through which he is working and the trusted computer base? The correct answer is trusted path. The listed preventative measures are defined as follow. Clipping levels. Recording of activities begins when a certain level of occurrences is exceeded. Deviations from standards. Identifying performance problems that arise by developing standards or baselines for the performance of certain systems. When these benchmarks have been established, deviations for these standards can be identified. On a schedule reboots, unexpected starts that are typically a sign of hardware problems of some sort. Trusted path, a communication channel between the user or the program through which he is working and the trusted computer base. And input-output control, applying controls or checks to the input that is allowed to be submitted to the system. Input deviation should be performed on all information accepted into the system to ensure that it is of the right data type and format and that it does not leave the system in an insecure state. Question 62. Which of the following regulation was written to prevent medical organizations from sharing patient healthcare information without consent? A. SOX, B. HIPAA, C. GLBA, D. Base 2. The correct answer is HIPAA. The list of regulations are defined as follows. Sarbanes-Oxley or SOX Act of 2002 provides guidelines on accurately reporting corporate financial data to shareholders and the public. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, was written to prevent medical organizations, including health insurance companies, hospitals, and doctors' offices, from sharing patient healthcare information without consent. The Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, GLB-8 of 1999, was written to ensure that financial institutions develop privacy notices and follow their customers to prevent and allow their customers rather to prevent the financial institution from sharing information with third parties. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act affects any entities that might engage in hacking of protected computers as defined in the Act. Question 63. You need to require users to use a minimum number of characters in a password. What password policy should you implement? Password complexity, password age, password length, or password history? You should implement a password length policy to require users to use a minimum number of characters in a password. Question 64. A third party will be assessing your organization's compliance to ISO guidelines for risk management. Which ISO 27000 series standard should you reference? 27007, 27005, 27033, or 27034? The correct answer is 27005. You should reference ISO 27005 because it addresses risk management. ISO 27007 addresses auditing. Um, ISO 27033 addresses network security, and ISO 27034 addresses application security. Question 65. Which entity is ultimately responsible for approving the business continuity scope and plan? The project manager, the BCP team, senior management, or department managers? Senior management is ultimately responsible for approving the business continuity scope and plan. Although the other entities may be involved in the development of the business continuity scope and plan, they are not responsible for the approval. Question 66. Which security principle is the opposite of disclosure? Integrity, availability, confidentiality, or authorization? The correct answer is confidentiality. The opposite of disclosure is confidentiality. The opposite of corruption is integrity. The opposite of destruction is availability. And the opposite of disapproval is authorization. Question 67. Which of the following is part of the identity provisioning life cycle? Creation, modification, monitoring, revocation? Should be A, C, and D only, A, B, C, and D only, or all these statements here? All the steps, or all the statements here are part of the identity provisioning life cycle. The identity must be created first. After the account has been created, it will be configured, modified, and monitored. And when the account is no longer needed, it will be revoked. Question 68. Which of the following gives guidelines on protecting the confidentiality of PII, or personal identifiable information? SP 800-122, PASTA, TRIKE, or SP 800-154? The correct answer is SP 800-122. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, a special publication SP 800-122, gives guidelines on protecting the confidentiality of PII. PASTA, risk assessment methodologies used in information security. PASTA stands for Process for Attack, Simulation, and Threat Analysis. TRIKE, which stands for Tangible Risk Intelligence Knowledge Engine, is a framework and methodology for conducting risk assessments and managing information security risks. And SP 800-154 provides information on the basics of data-centric systems that centric threat modeling so that organization can use it as part of the risk management processes instead of relying solely on conventional best practice recommendations. Question 69. Which term is used for an event that indicates that a risk has occurred or is about to occur? Safeguard, vulnerability, exposure, or trigger? A trigger is an event that indicates that a risk has occurred or is about to occur. A safeguard is a control designed to counteract a threat. A vulnerability is a flaw or weakness in the system, software, or hardware, and an exposure is an instance of being subjected or exposed to losses from a threat. Question 70. Who is responsible for establishing the priorities of the goals outlined in the business continuity scope? The BCP team, the BCP project manager, business units, or senior management? Senior management is responsible for establishing the priorities of the goals outlined in the business continuity scope. After senior management has established the high-level priorities, other groups and individuals, including the BCP team, the BCP project management, and the business units management and staff, uses the high-level priorities to set up individual resource priorities. Question 71. Your organization has applied for approval by an industry government agency. As part of the process, a third party will be reviewing all the policies and procedures that you have in place. What is the best description of the purpose of this review? To document inaccuracies, to document performance metrics, to document service levels, or to document compliance or non-compliance. The best description of the purpose of reviewing all the policies and procedures that you have in place is to document compliance or non-compliance with the agency's standards. As part of the process of conducting a business impact analysis, BIA, you perform the MTD, MTTR, and MTBF calculations. Which step of the BIA are you performing? 1. Identify critical processes and resources. 2. Identify resource requirements. 3. Identify outage impacts and estimate downtime. Or 4. Identify recovery priorities. The correct answer is 3, or C. Identify outage impacts and estimate downtime. During the identity outage impacts and estimate downtime step, you would perform the MTD, MTTR, and MTBF calculations. During the identity or identify critical processes and resources step, you create a list of all the business assets. During the identify resource requirements step, you would document the device name, operating systems or platform version, hardware requirements, and device interrelationships of all devices. And finally, during the identify recovery priorities step, you would take into account all the recovery calculations to produce a recovery hierarchy. What is the purpose of a guideline, or what are the purposes of guidelines? The question's a little bit um, misguided there. 1, to provide the steps necessary to achieve security. 2, to assess the security state. 3, to provide all the detailed actions that personnel are required to follow. Or 4, to provide recommended actions to carry out under certain conditions. Guidelines provide recommended actions to carry out under certain conditions. Standards provide the steps necessary to achieve security. Baselines assess the security state, and procedures provide all the detailed actions that personnel are required to follow. So again, in this case, the correct answer is to provide recommended actions to carry out under certain conditions. Question 74. What is it known as if someone uses external agents to run a scripted transactions against an application? A. Imitated pen test. B. Automated transaction. C. Full knowledge transaction. Or D. Synthetic transaction. The correct answer here is synthetic transaction. Synthetic transaction monitoring, which is a type of proactive monitoring, is often preferred for websites and applications. It provides insight into the availability and performance of an application and warns of any potential issue before users experience any degradation in application behavior. It uses external agents to run a scripted transactions against an application. For example, Microsoft System Center Operation Manager uses synthetic transactions to monitor databases, websites, and TCP port usage. Question 75. Which lightning type uses an ultraviolet light source? A. Fluorescent. B. Mercury vapor. C. Sodium vapor. Or D. Quartz lamps. The correct answer here is quartz lamps. The listed type operate as follows. Fluorescent. Lighting system that uses a low pressure mercury vapor gas discharge lamp that uses a fluorescence to produce visible light. Mercury vapor, lighting system that uses an electric arc through vaporized mercury to produce light. Sodium vapor, lighting system that uses sodium in an excited state to produce light. And quartz lamps, a lamp consisting of an ultraviolet light source such as mercury vapor contained in a fused silica bulb that transmits ultraviolet light with little absorption. Question 76. Which step in a penetration test identifies security gaps? Discovery, exploitation, enumeration, report, or vulnerability mapping? The correct answer is vulnerability mapping. A penetration test should include the following steps. 1. Discovery. Obtain the footprint and information about the target. 2. Enumeration. Perform port scans and resource identification. 3. Vulnerability mapping. Identify vulnerabilities in systems and resources. 4. Exploitation. Attempt to gain unauthorized access by exploiting the vulnerabilities. And 5. Report, where you report the results to management with suggested countermeasures. Question 77. Which type of password is a piece of information that can be used to verify an individual's identity by answering questions? A. Static password. B. One-time password. C. Complex password. Or D. Cognitive password. A cognitive password is a piece of information that can be used to verify an individual's identity by answering questions. A static password is the same for each login. A one-time password is used only once to log into to access a control system, and a complex password includes a mixture of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. Question 78. Which of the following is mandatory? A, regulatory policy, B, advisory policy, C, informative policy or guidelines. A regulatory policy is mandatory. These policies are often dictated by the government or industry. Question 79. Which model or framework organizes a set of products under four views: operational view, system view, technical standards view, and all view? A, CMMI, B, Six Sigma, C, COBIT, or D, DODAF? The correct answer is D, DOD, the Department of Defense AF. The Department of Defense Architecture Framework, DODAF, is an architecture framework that organizes a set of products under four views: operational view, system view, technical standards view, and all view. The Capability Maturity Model Integration, or CMMI, is a process improvement approach that addresses three areas of interest: development, services, and acquisitions. Six Sigma includes DMAIC and DMA-DV methodologies. COBIT is a maturity controls development framework that uses a process model to subdivide IT into four domains. One, plan and organize. Two, acquire and implement. Three, deliver and support. And four, monitor and evaluate. Question 80, and the last of this section. When designing the security awareness training for your organization, which group needs its training to focus on its responsibilities regarding security so that it performs its day-to-day tasks in a secure manner? A, technical staff, B, regular staff, C, senior management, or D, middle management? The correct answer is B, regular staff. When designing the security awareness training for your organization, technical staff needs the training to focus on configuring, maintaining security controls, including how to recognize an attack when it occurs. Regular staff needs the security awareness training to focus on its responsibilities regarding security so that it performs its day-to-day tasks in a secure manner. Senior management needs the security awareness training to focus on the risk to the organization and the laws and regulations that affect the organization. And middle management needs the security awareness training to focus on the policies, standards, baseline, guidelines, and procedures that affect the security. One very common mistakes that a lot of companies make is that they have a security training program that is equal to everyone, and that is a big mistake because different levels of people, management, senior people, the training that is given to a regular staff should not be the training that is given to a high level technical person. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And it happens all the time. So it's important that companies organize and plan their training according to the people in the organization, according to the roles. This is the end of this section on this series of videos practicing questions for the CISSP exam. In the next section, we will cover questions 81 to 100. Please don't forget to give me a like on my YouTube channel. That means a lot, and it will help me continue creating these free resources. Thank you.